Hey everybody, John here from John Deere's Embroidery Legacy, and welcome to Facebook Live. Today we are having a digitized live session. This could last a little while. It could last 10-15 minutes or maybe half an hour. It's going to be a pretty quick design. We will fill you in with some announcements that are going on, but I do want to welcome all of our replay viewers, and I appreciate everybody who's checked in. We have like 42 people, which is awesome. I saw people from Australia, from Alabama, from Tennessee, from Ohio, from all over the place. So welcome, and thanks for showing up for our live. Got to admit, this has been a really painful week for me. I was in Canada last week and visiting my grandmother, and my boys were with me. You saw Jesse at the last Facebook Live, and James came back home with me, and we've been shooting videos here. But that's not the painful part. The painful part is James is, how old are you now, James?
22.
22, almost 23. So he's just a few years younger than I am, and he's also a certified trainer. And Sunday he took me out for a 20-kilometer bike ride.
Yeah.
And yes, I hit the side of a mountain. Luckily it was not my digitizing arm. And then yesterday you took me on a 5-kilometer run.
Yeah, you did a pretty great job.
Yeah, I almost kept up. And today, before Facebook Live, he had me do some crazy workout. I don't even know what it's called. But
we're doing TRX suspension training.
Okay, TRX suspension training. And I got to be honest with you, every bone and muscle in my body hurts right now. So I might be a little bit slower than usual for Digitizing Live, but we are actually shooting tons of videos for next year. And tomorrow, actually, this is the good news. Tomorrow, my beautiful wife, Jennifer, and I get to go on a little holiday. We're going on a cruise, so I get to recuperate from the James experience. And then I'll be back, and we're going to be shooting more videos. So we have some really good stuff coming up for YouTube, project-based things for next year. We focused a lot on digitizing this year, but we're going to be doing more techniques and things like that. So anyways, lots of cool stuff coming. Now, give you a quick little update of some events before we get started. And I'll just let you know that in the spring of next year, we have 5 shows that are scheduled. We actually have the Road to California at, I guess it's in January 23rd to the 26th. And I am going to be giving digitizing classes there, as well as a new class, which is actually called Quilting Made Easy, and some embroidery classes. And I'm kind of excited because this is the first time that they've ever offered embroidery classes at Road to California. So I'm honored that they invited us to be there. So for those of you who are in Ontario, California, or thereabouts, please come and drop by and visit us. We also have something cool going on. Anybody who visits our booth, and I'll be announcing this shortly, and actually does something kind of special will receive a free gift from us. So that is Ontario. And next on the list is Puyallup, and we love going to Puyallup every year. Again, digitizing classes, our new class, which is Quilting Made Easy, and that's February 27th to March 1st. And then we're going to be back at all of the original sewing and quilt expos, starting in Atlanta in I guess it's the middle of March 12th to 14th, and then on to Lakeland, which is March 19th to 21st. And then we end up going to the next one, which is in Cleveland, Ohio. And I saw some people checked in from Ohio, and that'll be April the 2nd to 4th. So those are the live events that we're going to be doing. And then, of course, our big announcement at the last Facebook Live is our virtual Digitizers Dream Workshop, which we actually are, I'm not going to say amazed, but I will say that we are a little surprised at the amount of support that we've gotten for that. It is awesome, and it's going to be an incredible workshop. I am really excited about this because I think people have always liked our live workshops that we've done, but this, in my opinion, is going to be even better because it won't be dictated by time and pressure, and people actually have, I guess, more time to learn, and the education that will be provided is actually something that you have 3 months to complete. So those are the workshops that we do have going on. Now, if you do want to sign up for the virtual Digitizers Dream Workshop, it actually is February 6th, and it runs for 3 consecutive Saturdays. There's a beginning class, a middle webinar, and then there is an ending webinar. So it runs for 2 entire weeks, and you get to do the recorded lessons in between the live webinars. And the early bird sign up is $83 to sign up. So it is, in my opinion, very affordable for the type of education you're going to be getting. It will really kickstart your digitizing and get you, going right off the bat. That's kind of why I chose to do a Facebook Live today geared specifically on digitizing, so that you get some of the basics of what we're going to be covering and doing. And keep in mind as well, if you do have any questions during this live session where I'm going to be digitizing a design, please pipe up, ask the questions. I'll obviously be focusing on doing the design, but James will basically keep an eye out for comments or questions and interrupt me as I'm going through this. So here's the deal. I have my glove on, and the reason why I have my glove on is I am going to be using my pen tablet, which is a 27-inch Microsoft Studio. So it's what I digitize on, and it is a pen and touch mode. And this allows me to just have the pen and not touch. So that's why I'm wearing the really cool glove. For those of you who have signed up for the Virtual Dream Workshop, we do have a Facebook group that is specifically designed for it. It hasn't, I haven't really done a lot of active things in it yet because we're still a ways off, but I will be giving some pointers on the hardware that you might want to have for doing the course if you want the best results. So I'm using a pen. Pen is always mightier than the mouse, no pun intended. But my mouse, which is over here, I am going to be using a gaming mouse. And I love my gaming mouse because it does give me my right left click, my enter, my backspace, my space bar. All of the things that I need are at my fingers. So if you notice as I'm digitizing this design that I'm going to be going pretty quickly, it's because I really have the right tools for the job. When we usually do our live events and people show up with their laptops, I right away tell them that, if you're digitizing on a little laptop with a tiny little screen, when you zoom in, you're only seeing a certain amount of the artwork there, and they'll be looking on the big screen in front of them live that I'm using, and the picture is much bigger. And it's because I'm using a larger monitor. So if you're going to take the virtual workshop, I don't suggest doing it on a small laptop because it's much easier if you have a desktop with a larger monitor. And for those of you who do want to look at a pen tablet monitor, I will be giving referrals and links to Amazon for you to potentially get one prior to the workshop. So we'll try to take care of you that way there as well. Now, I'm going to switch over to the digitizing software, and James has everything up and ready to go. And this is going to be a pretty simple design. It is a 3-inch high design, and this is the actual size. Here it is full screen. And I'm just going to digitize these 2 letters. And I'm going to do a little bit of theory as far as how I go through these letters, and hopefully you can kind of see my mouse there, what I'm doing, but I'm going to digitize these letters the way I would write them. I'm going to come up the base of the B, and then I'm going to follow the satin stitches the exact way that I would write it. And that's the way I like doing lettering. I like to follow the lettering in the way I would physically write it. So if I'm doing the H, I'll start at the top and I'll move all the way through the loops as I go around, and I'll just follow the direction as I go through. So I'm going to go to my set scale, which is 6:1. If you sign up for the workshop, I'll explain exactly why that scale is kind of important. I'm going to choose a color that hopefully you'll be able to see on screen, which is purple. I'm going to use a single run stitch with a digitize open shape here. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually just come here at the top of this, and I'm going to put a couple of stitches back and forth. And hopefully you guys can see those stitches that I put right up at the top there. And some of you might be wondering, well, why did I put just a couple stitches there? Because these are 2 areas that are going to basically do the base of the B first, and then it's going to come around and it's going to separate. So I want to make sure that when it does separate, those stitches, my underlay underneath, is going to visually give me an area that won't separate. And there I went off into space real quick, so I'm going to go over to a fill stitch, satin, and now I'm going to come right down here and just pan over to the bottom of this B. Now I'm going to start putting my points down, and I'm just going to put curves in, and I'm following along the object here, and I'm coming as close to the artwork as possible. And then when I get to this point right here, I'm just going to hit my enter button. and that way it's going to enter the object. Now there I can see I have that one object that's entered. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back over to my Digitize running stitch, and I'm just going to come here and I'm going to start right there, but this time I'm going to come down and I'm just going to put some zigzags right here, and then I'm going to come down, put some more zigzags here, and I'll backspace because I moved over a little bit, and I'm just going to put some spacing right there and hit enter, and you're going to see that I have some underlay right in all of those joining areas again. And again, I did that because I know I'm going to get separation as I move through. Now when I come here and start doing these objects, and I'm just going to go to curves, outline, and I'm going point counterpoint. The counterpoint always defines the stitch angle, and we will have exercises that will teach you how to create a running stitch, how to create a satin stitch properly, how to create fill stitches. Those are some of the beginning exercises that we do in our workshops, so that before anybody starts digitizing any design, you learn the foundational ways to create a stitch. So there I have that object done. Now I'm just going to go here and I'm going to continue on with my curves. And I know that the software is going to automatically join closest point because these areas do actually touch. So there it gives me a nice smooth angle, and then I'll continue and do this as my last object, which is going to go all the way around just like this. And then I will get back up to the top, and I'm going to then enter, and it will create this last piece of the B. And you can see how that looks nice and smooth all the way around. Now when I look at this area here, I finished here, but I know that it's going to automatically join closest point. So I'm going to go back to my Digitize open shapes, go back to my running stitch, and again the first thing I'm going to do is come here and start to put some stitches back and forth in these areas. And again, I'm doing this because I know that these are areas that cross over, and when it actually ends up stitching the design, it's going to end up separating those areas. I traveled back to the first object here, which I'm going to finish, and then it's going to continue on and do this piece here, and I'm just going to do curve, curve, I'm doing curves, and I will just continue the flow all the way around this object. I know that the stitch points, the stitch point and the counterpoint are creating nice smooth angles as I'm going forward, and I know that this smaller piece that's going to go over top of that thicker area, I'm approaching it right now, this is going to go right over top, and it's going to give me a nice smooth finish, and I'll hit enter. So I can see right now that I have a nice smooth line that's completing that. Now I'm going to do this object right here, and I know again that they are going to join because everything will touch, and I know that the software is automatically going to put, you know, part of the object underneath and the other part over top. So when I continue on here all the way around this object, I am going to finish at the very tip of the object right here, and then I'll just hit the enter, and actually I'm going to backspace too because I want to do a straight, 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 straight. Actually I don't like that either. Let's go back a couple more, and that's going to give me a perfect angle going across. Now if I turn the true view off, you can see that the software is automatically putting in edge runs and zigzags based on the width of the stitch. And I can go in now, because this is set at pure cotton, I could go in and change the fabric assist of this design to be suitable for whatever fabric type I want. Or I can overwrite those defaults and put in whatever type of underlay I want specifically. But I do know that most people, to be honest, when you're first learning, you don't know what type of underlay necessarily to use based on all the different fabric types out there. So that is something that Wilcom has, pretty much perfected, is giving you automation within your objects as you digitize them. It's automatically putting in the right underlay based on the fabric that you've chosen. So there's my design at 3 inches. Now here is the thing that I love about the software. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to unlock my artwork. I always lock down my artwork before I start digitizing because odds are sometimes you grab the wrong thing. I'm just going to grab this one here, and I would probably save this as a working file and I would run this design. But now because it's object based, and let me just go over to US as opposed to metric, it is 3.1 inches wide and 3 inches high. So 3 inches high is exactly what I wanted. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that same design and I'm going to make it, let's say, 4.5. Actually, that was 5. Let's go to 4.5. So that's about a 50% increase, and I'm going to hit the enter button. And you can see that everything, if I go to full screen, everything is still pretty much perfect. Now this is what I do love about the software, is if I digitize one object at 3 inches, and I want to put, let's say, a running stitch border around this, I do not necessarily need to go in and redigitize this at a larger size. I can just grab that object exactly the way it is, and now that it is highlighted, and I can see that the entire object is highlighted, I'm going to go down to my create offsets. So let's create layouts and offsets, and I'm going to go right over to here, and I'm going to make sure I have an outline. And I'll just do an outline, let's say, with a stem stitch. A stem stitch is going to give me kind of a triple pass of a run around the design. And I'll click that, and it's going to then automatically give me a stem. Actually, let's change that because I don't want a stem. I'm going to grab that again, and let's do it actually as, instead of a stem, let's do it as a back stitch instead. So let's do it as a back stitch, and I hit enter. Now I can see when I turn on the True View, I have a perfectly outlined design that actually gives me a backstitch outline around everything. Now, here's where knowing the push and pull will come in a little bit handy, because if I do go to my 6:1 scale again, so I zoom in a little bit, there I can see I'm at 6:1, and if I do want to come in and start editing this so that I know it's going to line up 100% perfectly, I would highlight this object, hit the H key, and these two pieces right here, I will move them back ever so slightly. And just so you can see this when I zoom in, I'm going to zoom in right to this up. Can you see I have a bit of a gap there right now? If I undo that, you can see that it lined up all the way to the end originally. And the problem is, because of push and pull, that would sew out and you'd have a little bit of the purple that's coming out of the end. I pulled it back ever so slightly. Let's just go back to here. And if I go back to my undo, oh, I don't want to do that, so let's go back here. I'm going to go back to my V. I'm going to grab that object again, hit the H. I'm going to turn off the True View, and I'll do the same thing that I did before. I'm just going to drag that one right about there. And then any place I have an open end on this design, now I'm going to come over here and select this object, hit the H, and now I'll grab those 2 points, and I'll pull them back slightly. And then I'll come to this object right here, and I'll just continue to do the same thing, just grab these and pull them back ever so slightly. At 6:1, I know that my scale is always going to be consistent. So I know that by pulling them back just that much, I'm going to get perfect results. I just have to make sure that I grab both of them and slide them back just a little bit. So now I have a push and pull that is going to be perfect. Now, if you heard that little chirping, that is a gecko in my office. We love our geckos here because they eat all the bugs that I'm afraid of. So that's what that chirping was. James is laughing because he knows I'm a little bit of a man-child, you call me? I'm afraid of spiders.
A cadult.
Yeah, what's that?
A cadult.
A cadult, yes. Okay, I'm a cadult. So that actually is a perfect design. Actually, I forgot one of them. Let's just go over here. If I were going to do this 100% properly, I'll come over here, turn off the True View, grab that object, hit the H key, grab those 2 pieces and move them over ever so slightly, and now I have a design that I know is going to sew to perfection. Now let's take this even one step further. I'm going to basically come to my colors, and let's delete what I just did, and let's take this now and go from 4.5 to 6 inches. So this now is actually twice the size as it was before. Again, I don't want to redigitize everything. I just want to take this object, and I'm going to actually do this object as a fill stitch. But here's the thing, if I grab this right now and I turn it into a fill, it's going to give me all of this turning and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to make sure that I highlight that. I'm going to go to my edit objects, and I'm going to tell it to actually do a, where is it here? I just have to find it. It's not reshape. Remove stitch angles. Okay, so I'm going to remove stitch angles. Oops, and I just saw that it did something very crazy. Let's try that one more time. Okay, I've done something completely new here. Okay, well, let's leave that one. Actually, I have to figure this out now. I'm sorry. This always happens when you are in a situation of doing a live demo, but these are the things that we actually like to happen. So let's come in here, let's grab that entire object, and this time, to see if I can fix that, I'm going to break it apart. So let's go over here to break apart, and it is already broken apart. So let's try grouping it together instead, and it won't allow me to group it together. Okay. Well, I think I've hit a stumbling block. Let's just go back a couple, and I'm going to try this instead. Go to 6, hit enter, and now let's go to edit objects and remove stitch angle. And it did the exact same thing. Okay, well, I'm a little stumped, guys. I don't know why it did that. James, can you tell me why it did that?
I'm not 100% sure, but just a quick intermission. It's actually Karen Kelly's birthday, who's a moderator of our...
Oh, yay!
Group,
Happy
so.
birthday. Happy birthday to Karen Kelly. That is awesome. We wish Karen a very happy birthday. Okay, I'm going to just bypass this. Normally what happens, guys, is when I click this and when I tell it to be a tatami stitch and when I hit this remove stitch angles, normally it doesn't get rid of all those objects. If anybody knows, actually I think I have the solution. Let's go here and actually let's weld all these together. Now that I've welded them together, so I've welded all the objects together, and now I'm going to remove the stitch angle. Ta-da! Okay, I apologize about that. I figured it out. It was looking at all those individual objects, and it actually, when I took away all the stitch angles, it got rid of this entire piece right here. So to counteract that, I actually welded everything together first, and then I changed the stitch angle. Now that's just to prove that there's always a solution to every problem.
Barbara
Yes.
said she thinks it might have been because you were on color and not on objects.
No, I don't think so. It might have been, but even if I go to objects, I had everything selected. So actually, if I just undo that right to here, let's go back to where I was. If I undid it and I have everything selected like I do right now, and I am on objects and I go to remove stitches, it got rid of that piece, and it also got rid of the overlap here. So I think it didn't know what to do with all of those overlaps. Now when I go back here and I grab the entire object and I tell it to actually weld everything together, then it got rid of all the overlaps because it's now welded, and now when I go to remove stitch angle, it actually gives me one angle. And that's what I was hoping to do from the beginning, but I unfortunately had to take a very, very long journey to get there. Now when I come over here and I go to my create layouts, I'm going to go back to create layouts, but this time I'm going to tell it to do a satin stitch, and I'll click OK. And it's going to automatically give me a satin stitch around all of the objects. So I've literally taken this one design, and if I go over here and look at this piece, I can see right here there's a couple of little issues, and because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I really have to correct those. So if I go to my H, I can see that this is what's causing the issues. There's that piece here. I'm just going to delete that one there, and now I've fixed these two little issues. If you look at it before, you can see that they were crossing over and giving me all of these wonky angles. So by just going in and literally taking away and moving 2 nodes, I have something that actually stitches out pretty much perfectly. So anyways, moral of the story is that took me a little longer than I was expecting, but we literally took one design that we digitized at the 3 inches and we brought it to a 3 different sizes. And I got to go out of here, James is saying, right? Okay, I'm back. I'm live. Okay, so anyways, that was one design, very simple. I ended up taking it, making it larger, welding it together, changing angles, doing one with stem stitches, doing one with satin stitches. And I did do this earlier, and I didn't have the same issues or problems that I obviously had during the live demo, but that's Murphy's Law. If something's going to go wrong, it always goes wrong when you're live. But here is the exact same thing that I did, and I actually digitized it, and I adjusted the push and pull like you saw. I added the satin stitches around it, and whether we did it at the original 3 inches, which is over here, 4.5 or 6 inches, it actually stitches out absolutely perfectly. There's no separating between any of the objects that are crossing over. Just always remember, if you have a satin stitch go down and then you have another one that goes over top of it, those stitches are going to be going one direction and then going another, and they are going to pull apart where they overlap. So that's where we go in with underlay sometimes, and we put in what I like to call safety stitches, things that are going to rectify problems before they happen. So anyways, that was our quick digitizing demo, and that's just a little bit of a taste. When you guys do either take our 3-part lessons, we have 3 levels of our actual Digitizer's Dream course. We do go into a ton of detail because that's 15 lessons in reality over 3 levels. We give you a foundation. In the virtual workshop, we will give you a foundation right from the very beginning. I will teach you all 3 stitch types, how to actually use them and create them within the software, give you theory on the stitch lengths that should be involved. We tell you how to bring in the artwork, how to lock down the artwork, how to adjust the artwork for embroidery, because the day I get artwork that's perfect for embroidery is the day I win a winning lottery ticket. It very rarely ever happens. Usually what you see on screen isn't necessarily what you digitize. So if anybody has taken some of our education or been to our live events, give us a little thumbs up, and that's one thing. Let's put it this way. With regards to teaching people, I do think that I had the, blessing of having learned many years ago from some of the best teachers I could have ever dreamed. And that actually is what I'm passing along. This is not my theory. I didn't invent it. I was taught by people who spent their lives mechanically punching designs, and they gave me a foundation which I've been able to evolve into our software. And to be honest, it makes it more fun. We can do stuff with software these days that would have taken days to create, and we can do it in a matter of hours. So that's the cool part. Now the other thing, can we go back to the Hatch software for 1 second, James?
Julie just had a quick question.
Yep.
Julie says, what's the reason for not keeping the different angles in a tatami?
Actually, the reason, if you look at it here, the reason for not keeping the angles different in the tatami is just a personal preference. If I were doing a fill stitch and with a satin border around it, I tend to think that the fill being flat and the satins creating the curves gives it dimension. I could very easily, if I go over here and get rid of that object, I could basically go back, actually let's go right back to here, the beginning, and there is with the curves and the tatamis. This would give me a really nice effect as well. The only thing is it would probably add more stitches to the design. It would cause a little bit more distortion because you have all of these different angles going down, and when I end up putting the border around it, it will give me a slightly different visual effect. So there really was no reason other than it was my personal preference of what I was trying to accomplish specifically for that design. But it would look really cool. We could take that and do the exact same thing. Let's just see. Create layouts and offsets, create a satin stitch, and boom. I still have to go in and tweak those 2 areas, but it gives me the same effect. But if I look here, These are some of the little differences that I would see. Just a little bit of, I guess, crossover in those areas which don't necessarily hold true to the satin borders that are there. So, but just to give you a little taste as well, this is actually one of my favorite Christmas designs. I don't know if you guys realize it, but Christmas is just around the corner. And this was one of my favorite Christmas designs that I digitized this year. And if you are, I guess, a member, or if you do download designs from us, we have great quality designs. But I love the motorcycle Santa. Now, this was a perfect little segue. If you can bring me back to the camera just for a second. We did have, oops, am I frozen there? Looks like I'm frozen on the camera on my side. How about the other camera? Put me on the other camera and see what happens. Okay, yeah, I'm not frozen here. Okay, here's a little bit of information, and this is something where we are, to be honest, going to be experience a tiny little bit of what I like to call growing pains. The reason being is our Ultimate Stash site, which is the site that you got us back? Okay. The Ultimate Stash site, which is our site that we had all of our designs on, it is actually almost 15 years old. And Jesse, my son, who you saw at the last Facebook Live, he was, over the last few years, trying to get all of our brands worked into one brand, which is John Deere's Embroidery Legacy. And he has been reworking all of our sites. We have our font site now. We have our Digitizing Made Easy site, which does our education, and we are an official Hatch reseller. And we had our Ultimate Stash site where we sold our designs. If you've been to the Digitizing Made Easy site recently, you might have seen that it's kind of split into two now. When you first come to the site, you can see that one side, actually over here, one side is actually for our education, and the other side splits off to designs. So we did actually marry the two, and you can now get designs on our Digitizing Made Easy site. If you've been to the Ultimate Stash site, you might have noticed that on the main page, it says that you have, I think, about 420 days to download your designs, because that site is going to be retired. Being 15 years old, the technology is just way old. We couldn't basically fix it anymore. It's a Frankenstein of a site. We had to rebuild it from the ground up on the newest platforms for the industry. And it was impossible with a 15-year-old site to transition all of the memberships and all of the databases over those 15 years to the new site. So what we've done is we are keeping that site completely live and active for over a year. We no longer sell memberships on that site. You can't buy designs on that site. It'll redirect you to the new site. But anybody who is currently a member and has designs there can keep downloading. Nothing's going to change. And if you do have designs there and you want to back them up, you have about 11 months to do it at this point. And once we reach December 31st of 2020, we will be completely shutting that site down, just because it is so ancient. We couldn't keep it alive anymore. The new site is much faster, and we are streamlining it. It looks a lot more modern, and all of our new subscriptions for our new customers are going to be obviously going there, but we want to make sure that the transition is easy. Now, we haven't really started doing this or making an announcement because we wanted a soft launch. We have been trying to fix our little issues before we really made that public. Yeah. Oh, now, quickly, we have specials. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Black Friday is obviously just around the corner, and Wilcom just announced their digitizing sale, and this is the absolute best sale of the year for Wilcom's digitizer. It's $7.99, and just so you know, if you use the JD799 code, that is our reseller code for the Hatch promotion, you will get all of our exclusive bonuses with that, and that does include level 1 of our education, free fonts, and free designs. So that is ending December 1st, I think it is when that sale is going to be finalized. So take advantage of that one. It is the absolute best price that Wilcom Hatch offers on their software all year round. A couple other things that we have going on. We do have our font bundle sale. If you like fonts, and I know there's a lot of people who do, we do have our standard and business bundles for sale right now for Black Friday. And the beautiful side of that is when you do choose your fonts, you get points. They don't expire. You don't have to choose all your fonts at one time. You can select them as you need them, which is a huge advantage. And we have well over 700 available at this point. I am going to, just so you know, next month releasing 6 more design packs for the Quilters collections, and that's to launch off our new Quilting Made Easy classes that we're doing. So we have Quilter collections 4, 5, and 6 coming out in flexi fills and regular as well. So you can save your points for those ones. And the last thing that we're offering as a Black Friday is our hooping station, the Echidna hooping station. And those of you from Australia know that the Echidna hooping station is developed, or has been developed by Gary in Australia. It's an incredible hooping station, and we have that for the lowest price that we've ever offered it as well here in the States. If you are obviously in Australia or New Zealand, you are going to go to our friends at Echidna to purchase that, because the shipping coming from the US would just be astronomical, as well as it being in US funds. So that's pretty much it. Do we have any question, James, that you saw? Yes, I will.
Read them.
Read them. He's making me read. I told James. I told you. Okay. I got to put on my glasses here for a second. Can you switch over to the other camera then? Okay. Okay. So I've only been a Ladybug Club member. Actually, this is not working out very well for me, James.
Premiere Plus software, the concept similar to Hatch.
Okay, this camera's frozen, just so you know, the one that you put me on. My tech guy. Okay, sorry, what was the question?
I have Premiere Plus software, or the concept similar to Hatch.
Yes, the question was the person has the Premiere Plus software, and will the concepts be or cross over to any other software program? Definitely, the education that we teach is theory based. The reason why we include a demo version of software with the workshop is so that people can see and do exactly what I'm doing. It keeps the pace or the flow of the lessons going forward. But let's put it this way. Every software program has a running stitch, a satin stitch, and a fill stitch. They all have pull compensation. They all work on the principles of density, and they all have underlay. So although the buttons might be in different places, most of the properties within any program are somewhat the same, just laid out in different areas. So yes, it will be an advantage. And any other questions there?
Julie's asking if the fonts will be on a different site.
The fonts, actually, what we have done to marry our sites together right now, if you do go on to the Digitizing Made Easy site and you click on the Hatch software, you'll see that ESA fonts are listed under Hatch. The reason why is ESA fonts do only work with the Wilcom commercial platforms, the Hatch platforms, or the Genome version 5 software, which is made by Wilcom. Wilcom is the developer. So it is specific to Wilcom products. If you own another software brand, you can't bring those fonts in. They're not stitch files or object files in reality. And if you do click on the link on the Digitizing Made Easy site, now it actually takes you to the Wilcom embroidery font site. So the two are intertwined together, and when you click on the fonts, it automatically takes you over there. You're still in the same, I guess, family, we would call it, but it all works together as one. Any other questions, James? No, we are good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. It was a fast and furious digitizing lesson. I will not be doing a Facebook Live next week or potentially the week after because I am going to be with my beautiful wife on a cruise ship and there is no kids with us. Okay, so that's going to be where I'm going to be for the next couple weeks. But if you have any questions, just by all means send in support tickets. Our Facebook group, we have incredible moderators, Karen Kelly being one of them. Happy birthday again! And I just want to thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.